We'll talk more about that and the entire basketball world with Coach Steve Prohm, who is he's doing some media work now. He's joined us. I bet he hasn't done that permanently. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What's up, Coach? How are you?
Let me unmute. I was on mute. Sorry. I'm good. I'm doing good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to be on and talk with you guys. But yeah, I'm on the media side just for a little bit, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Just talking basketball, breaking things down and giving your insights, but it's been good.
I want to start off the court with the Louisville opening before we get into the games. You know, as a coach, coaches are going to get asked about this because it is a premier job. And all the coaches are going to say, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. Are coaches telling the truth when they say they're not thinking about that?
Some are and some aren't. It's an unfortunate situation. The one thing we talked about the other night when I was on the field of 68 is, just because you get, fired or you resign or you walk away or it's not the right fit, it doesn't define you. And you can't let it define you. Certain situations aren't the right, spot for certain people. But when you just look at Chris Mack and the whole and the ability what he's done over the long haul at Xavier to be a number one seed, to win several conference championships there. And really 2 years ago to be a number 2 seed, things can change quick at our business, especially now. You can go from bad to good to bad quickly. And, you got to continue to learn and how to navigate that.
We had a discussion yesterday on the show on how good this Louisville job is. I said it's close. It's definitely top 10 to me, close to top 5. And some people debated that. They don't think Louisville's what it once was. When you look at facilities, you look at fan base, you look at history. I mean, where do you put this job?
Yeah, I think, you have the so-called blue blood term. I think it's probably, if it's not that, it's right outside of that. Just because you look at what's important for a great job, and they've got a basketball town in a big city. The state of Kentucky loves hoops. They've got great tradition. They've won national championships. When I was at Murray State, we played in the NCAA tournament in the Yum Center. It is state-of-the-art, big-time facility. I think it's a terrific job, and I'm sure the next guy that goes in there will do a terrific job. It'll be interesting to see who they hire. There's a lot of, there's 5 to 10 guys. I think I may have heard you guys talking about some candidates when I was listening. And there's some guys that have a lot of connections to the program they could hire, or they could hire, obviously, guys that are having great success right now.
How hard is it as a coach to decide when to move on? You had to make that choice. A lot of people make choices all the time. Nick Saban, who we cover in football, I think if he had a do-over, he would have never left LSU to go to the NFL and try the Dolphins. And it worked out pretty good for him at Alabama. How tough is that to make that kind of choice, Coach?
I think it's very tough. Number one, it's not always best on the other side. Obviously, the financial piece, nowadays is so enticing. But, I look back, I have no regrets. Murray State, I met my wife there. I had my first son there. I just had a baby the other day. I'm back in this area now, so I've had 2 children here. That place was great to me, and we really enjoyed it. But it was time for me to go, take my chance at the highest level. And, Iowa State, they're having a terrific year this year. Very happy for them in that regards. But, like I said, just because you get fired doesn't mean it wasn't the right decision. We won 2 Big 12 championships. I coached some great players, got a chance to impact and touch a lot of people in that community. But it's more about, hey, what's next? But it is very hard. Everybody thinks it's great to be up for this job and that job. It can weigh, and it's very, very stressful. But I think at the end of the day, you just want a place where you can be aligned with the administration, with your staff, with the community, so you can be who you are and be grounded in that community, in that city, and not thinking about what's next. And I think that's the great job. I've been very fortunate. I've been at 2 places that love hoops, love sports, and care about men's basketball.
Coach Steve Prohm is with us. He mentioned the Field of 68. You can follow them on Twitter at the Field of 68, at the Field of 68, and go online, thefieldof68.com. Jeff Goodman does a great job with that, with Coach Prohm, Sean Miller, some of the guys that know the game really, really well. Randolph Childress. Coach is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. This is kind of it's kind of a weird look at Auburn I want to ask you about, though. They're the number one team in the country. We talk about all the good things with Auburn. Let me ask you this, though. If we were in an NCAA tournament situation right now, what type of team? Give me the makeup of a team that Bruce Pearl would say, boy, I do not want to get them with only a day or two to prepare.
Well, Auburn, first of all, Bruce has done an amazing job. And we played Auburn 2 years ago when Tyrese Halliburton was a sophomore. We played them and lost them in a good game down there. But what he's done down there, just from the fan base, generating a fan base, being number one in the country. I was a student manager at Alabama back in the day when they had Chris Porter, Moochie Norris, and those guys. They were terrific back then. I mean, they had some really good teams. We had some great battles. I think Wes Flanagan may have been on some of those teams as well during that time. But I think, number one, because they've got Kessler, you've got to get a team that at the 5, you really can shoot the ball and spread them out at all 5 spots. I just think Kessler is such a game changer around the basket. So how can you put them in some pick and roll situations? How can you have a skilled 5 that can bring Kessler away from the basket, and then a guy that can, be able to attack, Jabari in some certain ways from that standpoint. And then you're going to have a tough team, with some tough guards that can take care of the ball, handle their pressure, and be really, really efficient. The tournament's different because, when you're playing a team like a Baylor or like a Texas Tech coming from the Big 12, that is not easy to prep for that defense in a one day. The no middle, really flood to the ball. That's very, very difficult to prep. And I think that's what hurt Gonzaga in the national championship game. I think if Gonzaga and Baylor would have been able to play that game early in the year, that would have helped Gonzaga because they would have had a little bit of film to watch going against Baylor's defense because it's elite. But Auburn, they asked me, I think they're the best team in college basketball now by far. They're deep, they're tough, they're athletic, and they can score.
Coach, there was a time for decades where the ACC was the best conference in college basketball. Now there is one team in Duke that is ranked in the top 25. What has happened to the North Carolinas, the Virginias? We mentioned Louisville, even back when Pitt, Georgia Tech, NC State. I mean, it's just amazing. This conference has fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I grew up on the true ACC because I grew up in Virginia and, Maryland, Virginia, and the whole ACC. That was the North Carolina, Duke, NC State. That was the true ACC. I think, number one, the league's so big right now. You got 15 teams in the league. I think it's just the landscape. There's just so much more parity. The one thing I will say, and I agree with what you're saying, to where it's not the ACC, because when your best teams, like for the Big 12, Kansas needs to be elite. And Bill Self is a Hall of Fame coach. They're 5th in the country, 6th in the country. They're elite. Your best teams, like they talk about the SEC, Kentucky needs to be elite. They need their best teams to be elite. And right now, Carolina, is struggling a little bit. Not that the record's terrible, but they're not the Carolina that we're used to seeing that can compete for national championships. But don't take for granted, if you just throw teams in the ACC, that it's easy to go down to Florida State and win. That it's easy to go to Carolina and win and Duke to win. When you get into league play, I don't care what league you're in my opinion, Power 5, Mountain West, Missouri Valley, it is hard to win in league play.
Yeah, and the transfer changed everything year to year. Steve Forbes has it working at Wake Forest instantly there from East Tennessee State. I want to ask you, with your background, when you were a coach, were you tough on managers? I mean, were you tough as hell on managers because you were so good at it? Or were you lenient on managers?
No, I took good care of them. One thing I do, you take pride in, obviously your wins, your championships, guys in the NBA. But one other thing I think take pride in is managers that want to coach, being able to get them their first job. And, I am happy to say that every manager that's been under me that's wanted to coach college basketball, we've been able to find them a good fit to get started on their path. And that means a lot to me because I know a lot of people had to help me get my first break from that standpoint. But no, I'd travel them all if I could and give them all good gear and take good care of them because they are a heartbeat and a backbone of the program. Because I know at Iowa State, our guys lived in the gym. The great ones lived in the gym, and it could be midnight. It could be 2 a.m. They get a call. They're going to be in the gym rebounding for guys, whether it's Jordan Niang, Naz Long, Matt Thomas, Monte Morris, they're going to be in the gym rebounding for those guys.
I don't want to put words in Coach's mouth here, but he came right after Wimp. Coach Sanderson, Wimp Sanderson's on with us each week. I'm sure the holdover managers from Wimp to David Hobbs are like, you don't know how good you got it. that you don't have to work for Wimp.
Yeah, I've got, it's funny. There's a good carryover. We've got a group, kind of a Bama text message of former players, and I think I may be the only manager in there, but two managers in there, but one of the managers was with Wimp. And then I was with Hobbs, and so there are some good stories.
He likes to come on each week and tell us how little we know about basketball. So you'll appreciate that. Coach, thank you for the time. Fun talking with you. Hope we can do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care. That is Coach Steve Prohm. He is on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline, Field of 68, thefieldof68.com if you want to see his work. They do a really good job each night, just kind of breaking down what happened. Jeff Goodman heads it up. Sean Miller, some of the guys that are just not in coaching right now.